My parents often scold me for giggling at my phone too much, and to outsiders like them, it must really does look like I'm like listening to the love of my life, which makes it all the more shameful when I have to explain to them that no, this is just a YouTuber on their bedroom floor that I happen to like watching. I may remember their zodiac signs, their birthdays, while forgetting my own brother's. I can't help it though, because when I watch them, I feel happier. I develop a sort of relationship with them. I feel like I'm friends with them and I know them. Celebrity and fan culture has existed when my parents were younger, and for several centuries back, of course. But now, with the rise of social media, it has given birth to a new type of influencer, one that is more personable, ones where you feel like you genuinely know them. They open up more, and they're not some faraway megastar. They feel like people you could become friends with if you were to meet. Being in these communities, though, these celebrities, these influencers, they often have a very dedicated fan base, dedicated not to just their songs or their crafts, but for them as a personality. Having such a dedicated fan base, though, means that there are often stories about crazed stalkers drinking their water bottles, stealing their personal possessions, and trying to break into their house. I was quite shocked when I realized that these two behaviors, the one I exemplified and the stalker, are actually both examples of something called a parasocial relationship. A parasocial relationship is a psychological relationship where a viewer develops a relationship with a media personality. They may think that they are friends or closer, despite having limited interaction. Or in simpler words, you absolutely adore an influencer, and they don't even know you exist. These behaviors, from my own perspective, I feel like I know them due to the things that they put online. And something that me and a lot of fans in the community have is that we're all teenagers. If you've been on the internet before, you've probably observed that a large demographic of people in these dedicated fan base are teenagers, often around my age. And what could be the factor drawing in so many people of this particular demographic? Well, numerous studies, and a study by Pierre Levarel has shown that people with loneliness and self-esteem issues are more likely to develop parasocial relationships online. And it makes sense. When you're lonely, you crave interactions with others, yet your self-esteem issues makes it harder to connect with real-life people. You fear the social rejection that might take place in order to fulfill your loneliness, which is why parasocial relationships seemingly provide the perfect solution. Feelings of loneliness and self-esteem issues are an experience that unfortunately often highlights adolescence. Industries have realized this as well. They have realized the power parasocial relationships can have in bringing profit to their agency. And as history has proven, when industries realize they can profit off a vulnerable, large demographic, it leads to a lot of troubles. Nowhere is this more exemplified than in the idol industry. With the newfound K-pop wave, and the idol industry has seen a massive boom in these last recent years. And being part of these communities myself, I've observed two types of parasocial relationships that often take place here. And while I'll be using idol examples, you can probably start to see a lot of these same behaviors meld into other types of influencers as well. The first type of parasocial relationship is an intimate one. It is built upon the fan's desire for an intimate relationship. Often in your teenage years, you're first experiencing the desire to have a romantic or intimate relationship with somebody else. And idols, while they perform by singing or dancing, they also perform by showing affection. There are often fan meetings where you can pay money just to shake hands with the influencers, hug them, and while they're performing on television shows, they'll often say they love you, and there is a big culture of pretend lovers in the idol industry, where they'll say they love you, they'll act like they're your actual lovers, and it capitalizes upon the desire for a relationship. The second type is a self-projecting relationship. It is where you see yourself in the influencer. These influencers, they may try to market themselves as relatable. So when you see them talk about how messy their room is, or how sometimes they're just far too lazy to make up their bed, you can say, hey, that's me. And on the occasions where they may open up about their mental health, their feelings of loneliness or inadequacy, you can say, hey, that's me too. But in the end, all of this is just a performance. Especially for idols or public figures like actors and singers who are under an agency. Everything they say, no matter how authentic it may sound, has been filtered through by their agency, so it will be appropriate for the image. And even if this wasn't the case, it's just simply impossible to know somebody through what they choose to show online. It's just like yourself. When you're with your parents, you act differently. When you're on stage, you act differently. You try to project different personas so it fits the occasion. However, some people don't differentiate between the persona and the person, the performance and the performer. These people, they might become deluded. They might actually start to think that maybe this person, they do love me. They say they do, and maybe we aren't friends because they say that we are friends online. These people may become intimacy-seeking stalkers. Like the example I gave in the beginning, these people may try to steal personal possessions or feel entitled, like they will feel like they are an actual friend or a lover, and they may try to break into another person's house. I'm going to throw out a wild assumption here that nobody here is a crazy stalker. Nobody here has ever broken into Taylor Swift's house. But these stalkers, their mindset may not be so different. They might not be so foreign after all. Because 63% of stalkers have experienced a loss of a caregiver early into their childhood, and 50% of them often deal with loneliness or self-esteem issues. These are the very same things that often leads to parasocial relationships for both teenagers and the average audience. So the desire for somebody who loves you, the desire for your feelings to be reciprocated, it's not a foreign idea at all. It's simply that because of these stalker circumstances, they've grown to be deluded and believe in these parasocial relationships. The same mindset we can see slowly leak into our daily life. Although not to the extent of the stalkers, sometimes I do find myself asking an influencer about how their life is going, or why they seem so down in this video. But it's not up to me to know. I don't deserve to know all this knowledge. It's private information. But due to the warped sense of reality that parasocial relationships have given me, I start thinking that maybe I am this person's friend. Parasocial relationships can often serve as a crutch for other issues, which is why during the COVID-19 pandemic, as internet usage has risen and loneliness has spiked, many influencers start seeing a boom in their popularity. It's due to people similar to me, people who are looking for something to distract themselves with. And parasocial relationships, it can start serving as a form of escapism from the troubled world we may live in. When you're on your own at your house, being alone with your thoughts is a scary thing. You might want to just go online. You can't meet your friends now, so what can you do? Maybe you're facing some issues within yourself, but you have nobody to open up to. So you start seeking out these influencers who make you happier, and you start involving yourself more in these communities. However, during this process, you may start thinking that, hey, this person, they give me the same happiness as a friend does. And this community, it's easier for me to open up to them than the actual people around me. This may lead to a mindset where maybe I can replace my real-life relationships with them. However, no matter how tough, we need to realize that real-life relationships can never be replaced. Because in real life, there will be awkward silences, there will be tension, all unpleasant social things that you just can't find in a parasocial relationship. Yes, it is uncomfortable to go through these things, but as teenagers, when we're just first developing our recognition of emotions and developing our social skills, it is essential that we don't start caging ourselves in, that we actively engage in these uncomfortable situations. I myself personally, showing vulnerability or emotions doesn't come easy. It's why I've had to rewrite this TEDx speech a lot. But I also need to realize that even when I'm uncomfortable, I do have to talk to the people around me. Because the more and more I depend on these influencers, the more of a dependent relationship there will be, almost like a parasite. If I don't learn to deal with my problems, it will be even harder for me in the future to detach myself from these influencers and the community around me. For as long as we live, humans will always be seeking connections with others. It's in our very nature. But it's up to us to be aware of the dangers of a parasocial relationship. It's up to us to be aware of our very nature.